What's up, everybody? It's Colfarks here, back on the Colfarks Sports channel, and today we are going to be going over my College Gameday predictions for 2021. What this means is I'm basically predicting where I think College Gameday will go every single week of the college football season. I've seen multiple websites and other YouTube channels doing this, so I thought I'd give you my own predictions and just go over some games that I think they'll go to. So starting off in week 0, we have Nebraska at Illinois. I don't think they're going to go to this game, mostly because it's going to be on Fox, and is it really that big of a game? Most week 0s, they just do one in studio, and it's normally a shorter show, I'm pretty sure. But this is a noon game on Fox. If this was like the primetime game on ESPN, yeah, I'd think they'd go to it, but they've already announced some of the TV schedules and stuff, and so I do not think they're going here. They'll probably just go in studio. But there's really no doubt that if they do want to go to a campus, that they'd go to Champaign. Which, fun fact, they've never been to Champaign for a College Game Day, so that'd be something interesting. Week 1 is very obvious. It's Clemson, it's Georgia. There's really no other game. There's Miami versus Alabama, but that's really about it. Georgia and Clemson, they'll be playing in, I believe, the Duke Smile Classic. Going into week 2, this is where things can get a little interesting. So most places would have Oregon and Ohio State. However, that will be the big noon game on Fox. I don't think they're gonna go there. They could go to Washington at Michigan. That'll be the primetime game on ABC, so I could definitely see them going to Ann Arbor for that one. However, this will be, I think, besides Oregon and Ohio State, the biggest game of the weekend, and so I'm just gonna assume, since this is the 3:30 game, I think they'd want to go to either Washington at Michigan or Iowa at Iowa State, and Iowa State has been really good as of recently. And they probably, they have a legitimate shot to make the college football playoff this year. And so I think they want to go to Ames for a game this year. And really, when I look at the schedule, this is the biggest home game. You also have Texas at Iowa State later in the season. But overall, I think this is the best option. And since this will be the 3:30 game on ABC, this is probably where they're going to go, in my opinion. Week 3, I feel like this one is pretty obvious. Alabama at Florida. While it will be a CBS game, it has been a while since Alabama's played at the Swamp. Florida did lose a lot, but it should still be a fairly competitive game. Alabama with Bryce Young. I mean, they do have Miami in week 1, but I feel like this is probably going to be a tougher game than Miami. And playing on the road, a very, very energetic crowd. This could give Alabama some trouble. The primetime ABC game will be Auburn at Penn State. However, this game is it's a really big deal, and I really don't see why they wouldn't want to go to the Swamp for this one. There also really isn't another chance to go to a Florida home game, and so this is probably their best option. And I think besides week 1 with Georgia versus Clemson, I think this is probably the most obvious pick. Week 4, so I was very confident for a while this would be Notre Dame versus Wisconsin. When I look at the schedule, there isn't really any other game. Also, Jack Cohen transferring to Notre Dame. It's going to be a revenge game for him possibly, so that's going to be another driving factor to go here. The thing that makes me more hesitant about this one is that it is going to be on Fox. However, there's just no real other game I think they'd go to, and I think that if they're going to want to go to a game featuring Wisconsin, this is probably their best bet. You also have Wisconsin, Iowa later on in the season. They play every year though, so I think they're gonna go here, but it being a Fox game, I'm not 100% sure. It very well they could go to another game, but when I go through the schedule, there really isn't anything else that sticks out to me. So overall, I think them going to Notre Dame and Wisconsin and Chicago, that's probably their most likely option. Week 5, to me anyways, was the toughest game to pick. So I went with Boston College at Clemson. And really, there is just a lot of different options. And none of them are great. I've seen from some places they said Ohio State at Rutgers. They could go there, but like Greg Schiano is turning Rutgers around. But I feel like if they're going to go to Rutgers, wouldn't they rather go to a home game for Clemson? I don't think they've ever been to Piscataway, but I don't really see why they'd want to go there. You also have Ole Miss at Alabama, but that could be a CBS game, and I feel like that if they want to go to either a Clemson home game or an Alabama home game, they'd probably lean more Clemson. Also, my week 6 pick also features Alabama, so if they don't want to go there 2 weeks in a row, which they did last year, I believe, they went to 2 Alabama games straight in a row. So it wouldn't surprise me, but that's another driving factor to where you wouldn't want to go there. In week 6, I have them going to Alabama at Texas A&M. This is a very big game that will very likely decide the SEC West. If Haynes King is good for Texas A&M and they are able to really just get the entire team going, I think they have a realistic shot to beat Alabama. It's at home. And I think that even though this game is going to be on CBS, it's kind of like Alabama, Florida, where there's really no other place to go. And I think they want to feature Texas A&M this year, and this is probably the best place to do it. I do have them going to an A&M game later, but they're the away team. Week 7, so this is a very strange pick, and I know a lot of people are going to find this very weird. So I have them going to Alabama State at Jackson State. I do think they're going to want to go to a Jackson State game this year just because they are, first of all, an HBCU. We all know why they'd want to go there. Also, you have Deion Sanders now, and that has created lots and lots of attention and lots of interest in the Jackson State program. And if they are going to have to pick an FCS game, because they normally do go to an FCS game, if not they go to some weird place like the Masters. Anyways, if you have to pick an FCS game, I think you want to go to a Jackson State home game. I have seen from multiple places they have Jackson State at Southern later in the season, and I think that's a possibility. However, I think they want to go to a Jackson State home game, and the biggest home game is them against Alabama State. However, the problem with this is there's a lot of FBS options. So you have Florida at LSU. I definitely think they'll consider that. You have UCF at Cincinnati, and I think that'll be a huge game in the American. However, Cincinnati will have played Notre Dame and Indiana, so they could very well win both of those games. But if they lose them, they're going to be like 4-2, 3-2, and that is just not going to bring enough interest. And so it's a safer bet not to predict them going there. The big one for a lot of people would be them going to Miami at North Carolina. That is going to be a very big game, probably a top 15 matchup, at least a top 25 matchup. I'd be shocked if it wasn't. And it is going to decide the ACC Coastal Division. And so I think they definitely want to go there. However, if they have to pick an FCS game, this is the strongest one. For week 8, I have Ohio State at Indiana. This one was fairly easy for me. While it will likely be a Fox game, I do think just like they want to go to an Iowa State home game, I think they want to go to an Indiana home game just because they've really turned that program around. Michael Penix definitely looks like he will be a very good quarterback, and I think Indiana has a legitimate chance to knock off Ohio State. They only lost by 7 in a wild comeback last year. And I think now that it's at home, I think Ohio State will be a little worse. I think this is definitely a game Ohio State could lose. Next up, I have North Carolina Notre Dame. And while this is a NBC game because it is at home for Notre Dame, I think this game will be big enough. Probably a top 10 matchup, North Carolina. This could be a huge win to really boost their resume. So if they do beat Clemson in the ACC championship, if they even go to it, because they could lose to Miami. But if they do go to the ACC championship and win, this would be a very nice game to put on your resume. And Notre Dame, I think they like to go there. You also have Iowa and Wisconsin. I've seen some places predict that they'd go there. However, I don't think that is really big enough. So if it's either they're either going to go to a second Notre Dame game or a second Wisconsin game. And I think this one will be bigger. Week 10, Oregon at Washington. This is probably the best Pac-12 game they could possibly go to this year. There's also Utah and USC, but I think this is probably the biggest game. I think they're gonna want to try and fit in one Pac-12 game, and because I do think it is the most important out of all the Pac-12 games, I think they'd try to go here. You also have LSU at Alabama, but that game's always on CBS. Week 11 was pretty hard because there weren't that many big games. This is the week where I saw multiple places predicting that they'd do Jackson State at Southern. I don't think they're going to do that one. You also have Michigan at Penn State, which if that's an ABC game, which it has been in the past, then they'd want to go there. However, it very well could be on Fox. I think having an in-state rivalry, they went there last year to this game, Florida State and Miami, and Florida State's getting better. They have Mackenzie Milton this year. Miami is probably going to be a top 15, maybe top 10 team at this point, especially if they beat North Carolina. And so I do think that the best choice this week is this one. Week 12, so this is another reason why I didn't think they'd want to go to Nebraska, Oklahoma earlier in the season for the 50th anniversary of the game of the century, is because they want to go to Norman for this game. This game is going to be absolutely huge, possibly even a top 5 matchup. Iowa State is going to be that good. I don't think they're going to go to any repeat locations. This is going to be a really good game, and I just see nothing on the schedule that I think could compare to this. I don't see anywhere they could go that wouldn't be this. This is by far the biggest Big 12 game coming up, probably an early preview of the Big 12 championship game. This is going to be a very competitive game in my eyes, and I don't really see why they wouldn't want to go here. Now, for rivalry weekend, I chose A&M at LSU, so this wasn't the other Texas A&M game I picked. There are a ton of different options. You always have Michigan and Ohio State or the Iron Bowl. Those are always good. And then there are tons of non-conference rivalries that we didn't get last year, like, for example, Clemson and South Carolina. So if they want to go to something like that, just because we couldn't have those last year, there's also Georgia Tech, Florida State, Florida. You've got a lot of those that weekend. So if they want to go to one of those instead, I think that is a possibility. However, I think they're going to want to go to a LSU game this year because they will be better. And Texas A&M, probably a top 10, maybe even top 5 team. This could be a huge game for them to really boost their resume. So after what happened in, I believe, 2018, the 7 overtime game, I think this is the best choice for them to go for rivalry weekend. Now we'll go to week 14 as well for the conference championship week. I think they'll go the Big 12 championship, probably a rematch between Oklahoma and Iowa State. That's where I'm leaning for my predictions right now by far. I can pretty much guarantee to you there's really no way Oklahoma doesn't make it to the Big 12 championship. So I'm very confident in saying they're going to be here, just like I'm very confident that we're going to have a team like Clemson in the ACC championship. But really, you could go to any conference championship. I mean, they'd probably want to go to this one or the SEC, or maybe even the ACC. Because if it's between Oklahoma, Iowa State, they've already went there, Georgia, Alabama, we see that one a lot in conference championships. Why not go to possibly North Carolina and Clemson? I mean, that game we didn't see last year, so that could be one they'd want to go to. I could see any of those 3 conference championships being where they want to go. Now, week 15 is obvious, always Army versus Navy. There's really no question there. So that about wraps up my college game day predictions for 2021. Do you agree with all of mine? I assume not, because I had some wacky picks, especially for week 7. If you disagree, which I assume you all do, then let me know down below, and I'd love to read what you guys have to say. Starting very, very soon, we are going to be doing official predictions for teams. We are not going to be finishing our early predictions. I only did one of those and then a top 25, so I'm not going to do any more of those because we're in the summer and most websites and YouTube channels are going to be doing official predictions. Be on the lookout for that very, very soon, and more episodes of my NCAA 14 Nebraska State Dynasty. I hope you all enjoyed this video. If you did, make sure to leave a like and subscribe, and I'll see you all next time. Have a great day. Take care.